Blizzard Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Green Bay Blizzard Coaches Show. I'm Joey Bonadonna. That's Blizzard head coach Corey Roberson. Coach, I know you might have been exaggerating your answer the last couple weeks, but this week, how are we doing this week?
We're doing okay. We're doing back
good.
to business, baby.
Back to business. Back-to-back wins since our last episode, but we'll talk about that. The first win of the season, obviously a big game against the Massachusetts Pirates, an overtime victory, 38-31. But a little bit of magic that came in the second half, similar to that Frisco game. Just kind of talk about your team's resilience to be able to pull through and get a win like that against Massachusetts.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster, right? You know, up and down roller coaster, and for the guys to stay together, stick together, and fight through all the adversity that we've been going through all season and throughout that game, down 17-3 at one point to come back and tie it up, and actually Mass scored with like 6 seconds left. And then, you know, Jack the Ripper is what they call him. So Jack the Ripper ripped it, and you know, Des made a miracle, right? A fantastic catch, and you know, the rest is history. So, you know, and let's talk about the pressure kick, right? He didn't have a great game this past game, but during that pressure situation, you know, Nick Jarowski made a tough extra point after a false start that moved us back 5 yards. So that was a big-time pressure kick as well.
Talking about the Hail Marys, obviously Green Bay has got a little bit of Hail Marys of their own with the green and gold, but this is a pretty special one too. Take me through your thought process on that drive after the touchdown from Massachusetts.
Well, on that drive, I mean, it was just, let's get a couple of inches, right? You know, this game is about inches, and we talked about that as a team prior week. You know, inches. The game is about inches. You know, we could win 1 inch there, we could lose, right? So we've been on the bad end of that deal so far, and no, it was we threw a quick hitch, right? You know, we just wanted to get some yards coming out. We needed to get something. And, you know, we threw a quick hitch to Dez. Actually, Dez caught the ball, put it over the wall. Now we got 3 or 4 seconds left on the clock. And, you know, and it's funny, I'm not going to say exactly what we said in the huddle, but we kind of pointed at a guy and said, that's who we're running towards.
Oh, boy.
And that's what we did. And the rest is history. You know, Jack was under pressure. He was able to get that ball off, and, you know, Dez came down with it. I was froze. I was just looking because I couldn't see anything. It was just a whole bunch of bodies down there, and when the crowd erupted, it was like, there we go, you know, touchdown. So then, but it still wasn't over. We still had to make the extra point to send it to overtime. But big-time players make big plays, and Dez is a big-time player.
We'll touch on the defense here in our second segment, talking about the Vegas game, but one of your newer signings, Alas Sessions, came with a big play on the last play of the game on 4th and goal. Getting that hurdle over the running back, getting the pressure on Benefield to force an incomplete pass. Again, the resilience, the ability for Ala to make that play in his first game in the Blizzard uniform.
Right, you know, you talk about special guys and talents and certain things you can't coach, and that's one of those plays that, you know, there's no playbook, there's no play drawn up to do what he did in that moment. We had a timeout right before that situation, and it was real simple. Hey, you know, we made the change. We subbed James Brown out, brought Ali in. We needed some, you know, he's faster than James. I tell James all the time, he needs to get fast. What do I need to work on, Coach? Get faster. So in that situation, it was pretty clear that we was gonna bring Ali in, and I said, Ali, they cutting. You know, they cutting. Don't get cut. I got you, Coach. And then he went out and hurdled over the young man from Massachusetts and put the pressure on Benefield, and, you know, he ended up throwing it in the ground. So that was, you know, like I said, you know, the it factor, right? He had it.
Talking about the comeback that you were touching on, late in the third quarter, 23-10, I believe, was at that point in the game. They're inside their own 5. And one of the guys that's been on your squad for a while now, Delger Canty, with the forced fumble on Martez Carter, sets your offense up with another short field. actually it might have been early fourth quarter. But how big was that play in terms of spinning that game on its heels?
That was a big-time play. We had just talked about, as a defense, when we went back on the field, we need a big play. We need somebody to do something extraordinary, right? And, it comes down to the guy who's been with the team since I took over as the head coach in 2018, and Canty, and he made that play. He made it happen. I mean, just to have the awareness when the running back tried to cut back on him, get his hand on the ball side and strip that ball. That's something that certain running backs don't expect at that time, especially when he thought our D lineman had overran the play. So that was a big time play by Canty. We've talked about, come on, man, you got to scoop and score on that. Let's leave no doubt. So he's like, Coach, what else you want me to do, Coach? I got the ball, man. I got the ball. I had all these guys right here. So Canty's been one of our leaders, and me and him had some. We've been through it, and I respect Canty. Canty respects me, and we had a rocky roll season last year. Him and I especially with some tough decisions that we had to make. So I want to compliment him on his resilience, his persistence, and how he overcame some of the things. And I challenged him this offseason, and he stepped up. He's been every bit of advertised of what we recruited back in 2018. So, kudos to Canty.
And we'll actually bring Deldrick in here and talk with him a little bit. Come on in here. Deldrick.
What's up, Coach?
What's up, baby?
Whoa.
All right. So, Deldrick, we just talked about that play. Take me through what kind of, what your instinct was on that forced fumble.
My instinct was just going crazy in my mind because before we got to hit the field, my teammates had just told me a key tip that the running back was carrying the ball kind of loose. And I really thank my whole defense for that tip because without that tip, I would have never made that play. So I really want to give a big ups to my defense, really the whole team. Everybody trusted me to make that play.
And same thing that I said to Coach here, you two have been through it for a while now, back to 2018. What do you like about this squad that you've been through it for the last couple seasons?
Well, I want to give a big ups to Coach because he always know how to recruit and bring the right players in. He know how to make the right bond. All these years, every team he brought in was always had good players on it. And I love everybody that was on those teams. But this team is kind of unique in a special kind of way because we know what we got to do to make stuff happen out there. We ain't let the record, break us or make us. So we kept going to practice. We kept having that word of the day pushing us. My word of the day was standard. We had to make our own standard, and our standard was made when we beat Massachusetts Pirates. So we know that we got to keep pushing forward and don't let that last game, Las Vegas game, put us down too much because we kind of came out kind of slow in the second half, but we know we better than that.
And last question, I always like to ask the players, what's your favorite thing to do in Green Bay?
Favorite thing to do in Green Bay? Sleep. You don't see me too much. So if you don't see me, I'm in the bed sleep.
Sleep, right, baby.
Well, thank you, Deldrick, and hey, congrats on the last 2 weeks.
I appreciate your joke. All right, cool.
All right, baby. All right, now.
All right.
Canty is a man of few words, but that's probably the most I've heard him talk since 2018.
Well, we'll press on to the Vegas game just this last week. Obviously a tale of two halves. A very dominant first half performance, up 34-0 at halftime. Second half, 25 unanswered. What was the message in the locker room at halftime and at the end of the game? Ultimately, you come out with a win, but what's the message after that game?
So the message at halftime was, we have to find a way to keep on competing. It was the first time we was up at halftime, but we didn't talk about that being the first time until, as we reflected on the game afterwards. But we got to compete. We got to compete. We got to go out there in the second half somehow, some way. We got to find the energy. Being up 34-0 at halftime, I mean, what are you playing for at that point, right? You know what I mean? And with a young team not knowing how to keep it on, we learned how quick it could turn around. I mean, we was once in that situation last year versus Arizona. being down 34-0, and came back to almost beat them. We ran out of time. We didn't lose that game. But we ended up, the final score was 41-34, right, against the Rattlers. So, it was almost deja vu all over again. But somehow, some way, this young man who was just up here with Canty, he made some plays down the stretch in the fourth quarter that caused some problems and drew some flags, holding penalties that helped us prevail. At the end of the game, it was, it was, let's try to celebrate, in AOT words, our owner of the team. Let's try to celebrate and get to work on Monday. But that was a tough one in the second half to overlook, right? So we had to correct some things, and we had some reflections, and we got to move forward, of course, because we're on the Quad Cities. But it was some things that we had to address.
Absolutely, and in that game, you kind of got your running game going a little bit, bringing in Torrin Young. He made his debut in the Mass game, but this last week was really where he broke out. Led the team in rushing with 12 carries, 65 yards, and 1 touchdown. Also led the team in receiving with 2 receptions and 24 yards. Torrin, I mean, he's a local guy. I mean, local as in from Madison, but tell a little bit about Torrin, his story of coming to the team.
Yeah, so interesting with Torrin. I think one of my buddies from college actually recruited him to come over here. It was a guy named Scott, Torrin, Kevin Fix. It was a lot of people was in this era about playing, and he left Iowa early. Big Ten running back, played at University of Iowa. Had a lot of game experience, and to have his caliber type of player to come in the IFL period, it showed Saturday, right, of what he's able to do. Some of the runs that he had and the vision that he has as a running back, those things you can't coach as well. Some of the people, if either you got it or you don't. He's been a great addition to our organization. He has some games that he can't make because of prior commitments with his professional work life. And we understand that, and we signed up for it, and we know what we was getting, right? So, but overall, Torrin has been a great addition to us. And, he makes practice. He makes the 2-hour drive to be here weekly, and he's the ultimate team player.
And you touched on that Big Ten experience, especially making the plays that he did as a running back for the Hawkeyes. That doesn't really come around this league very often, so it's definitely a welcome addition to the team. But switching gears to the other side of the ball, the defense has definitely been a big part of the success this season. Now up to second defense in the league in terms of points per game. You also have the top 2 tacklers in the league, Mamadou Mbai. He's tied for second. He also got his first interception of the season last week. And also James Brown is our player of the week this week with 9 tackles and 1.5 TFLs. James has obviously been a big part. He's top tackler in the league, also top with tackles for loss. Talk about his story and coming to this team as well.
Hey, let's bring James up here. James is here. James, come on up here, buddy. Good. Wipe the food off, man. James got a unique story. I think the story just published today.
It did,
I know on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
So I'll let James tell the story. He might tell it a little funnier than I can because I'm straightforward with it. And, he's going to probably add a little more humor to it. So, but to answer your question, James has been a blessing to the organization overall, as far as his play and what we're asking of him. And, I talked about it earlier. He always asks me, what can I do to get better? And I say faster. I don't know if he can get faster right now. There's some things that he could work on in the offseason as he's trying to, navigate his way through the professional ranks. But we had a heart-to-heart moment after week 1.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, and he stepped up to the plate. He's transformed his body in a matter of 5 weeks of what we are asking for, what I'm looking for in the linebacker, and he's still pushing through. So
yeah.
So I'll let James take the floor.
Well, before we get the story started, I just got to know, who do I got to race to finally get this speed thing figured out?
Don't worry, you ain't gonna get there.
Who? And then
Mo,
I got to
Mamadou?
race Mo. Oh, okay.
He's not beating
That's
Mamadou.
a challenge. That's a challenge. That's a challenge. Yeah, so I mean, I met Coach at a tryout in December. And, well, actually, before that, my grandparents came to Green Bay. At the time, I wasn't really recruited by anyone. I didn't have a stellar career at Northern, so I was really under the radar. So I came to that tryout because my grandparents had talked to Ryan Hobson. Hobson was able to get my email to Coach, and then kind of got ghosted a little bit. But all the coaches I reached out to were kind of the same way. So I showed up to the tryout. I think I made enough of an impression to get on the radar for Coach. And I think I showed him that I have I have a good personality. And I was hoping that was kind of a selling point for me. But then I just got a call before camp, and he said, "Can you be down here?" I said, This is my life. This is what I'm training for. Of course I'll be down there." And then Coach had mentioned, after week 1, I came into camp with really no expectations. I don't think a lot of people thought I would make it. I came into camp and I sat down with Coach, and he's like, "You got a long way to go if you want to be a player in this league." He's like, "But I see something in you. I think you can get better, and so I'm going to give you the opportunity here. But you really need to start showing me that you can handle this task that I'm going to give to you." And then that week in practice, I had a substantially better week, and I won over the starting role in that week. And then I came out in game 1, and it's just been kind of history since then.
Yeah.
So I mean, and then here we are. So and I still got a lot to go. I feel like every week Coach issues me a challenge. Hey, you gotta work on your speed. Hey, you gotta work on your reads. You gotta move better in space this week. So every week it's been a progression. So good things to come.
Absolutely. Well, give a hand here for James. Definitely well on your way. Obviously, number 1 tackler in the IFL in terms of total tackles and tackles for loss. I think I said it on the broadcast this week that I think we might have to start campaigning for maybe Defensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year. But
that would be something.
Absolutely. Well, James, thank you for coming on impromptu.
Yeah,
and,
thank you.
Yeah, congrats.
Thanks for calling me up.
There we go. Yeah, put him on the spot once again. He used to that in all the meetings.
Alrighty.
I didn't know he was leading the league in tackles. I think he told me once, but I don't be looking at that. So you got it. So he's leading the league in tackles and tackle for loss?
Yes.
Okay.
He was. Well, last week I think it was he had like one more game than the guy who was in front of him. Mm-hmm. And he was leading in tackles per game. And then this last week he put over, and now he's number 1. And
good for him.
Mamadou is now tied for second.
Now Mamadou's number 2?
Yep.
He was second team all IFL. He should have been Rookie of the Year last year.
I think I said at the Iowa game after he got a pick, I was like, this guy should be the Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, he should have been Rookie of the Year over the Iowa guy. Hey. who won it. Hey. But what do we know? That would have been like back-to-back Rookie of the Years. Triggs, Mamadou.
Yeah.
Who knows if this guy who was just up here going to win it?
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. But we will talk about next week. Obviously a big game we kind of talked about a little before the show, but Quad Cities, first trip there since 2019. Last time you guys were there, it was a fun game, comeback. Also a great rivalry with the border battle. Coach Ross and you have had some good battles over the last couple of years. Talk about what you're looking forward to this game.
I mean, it's going. You got a high-scoring offense over there with Coach Ross. He's an offensive guru, and he put up a lot of points. As offensive coordinator. I mean, even not the first game that we played, but when they came back, because we played them back-to-back weeks in 2019. So he put up a lot of points in 2019, that second game. And then, not to mention him as the offensive coordinator last year in Bismarck. I believe that was one of the deciding factors that was able to get them over the hump. He's a great coach, right? He's a good coach, and he knows his offense, and he runs a good program over there. So kudos to him. He keep on saying he want to golf, but I think he's scared to golf because, he's pretty good at golf. But it's a good program. So what I'm looking for is, it's going to be an offensive game versus a defensive team, right? They offense driven, and we defense driven so far. So I'm looking forward to a good game, and the best team's gonna win. So Corey is a good buddy of mine, and we're friends now until I show up in Moline, Illinois.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up with our human interest question, so to speak.
I forgot about this. So it's been a minute. This
week, the NFL draft starts. I know you said you're a big Michigan sports guy. Aiden Hutchinson, obviously out of Michigan, but if you had the number one pick in this year's draft, who would you take?
That's a loaded question, man. I haven't watched TV since this season started.
Then you can't be biased with all the mock drafts and stuff like that.
Right, because they got the D lineman, right?
Yes.
That's what I remember saying before the season started. So, I don't know. I mean, that Liberty quarterback is pretty solid. I mean, when you're talking about quarterback play, and any team that had a quarterback, I mean, you probably got to go with, that kid who's mobile. But overall, I mean, it depends on what team, what organization, and what our needs are. So that's a tough question.
So you are a Malik Willis guy.
It's a quarterback-driven league, so you got to go where the money's at.
There you go. Well, myself, I do like Malik Willis. Sam Howell's also up there with one of my guys. I think Markel Willis got a chance to coach him before he went to UNC. Yeah. I'm not sure what the connection was there, but I know that Markel and Sam Howell go a little ways back. So I've always been on the Sam Howell train because of Coach Willis, but I'm looking forward to that this week. The draft's always
it's always fun. Yeah, it's always fun. Hopefully, I can find some time. I mean, that's towards the end of the week, so I may be able to find a couple hours to spare. But you always, it's a busy time of the year.
Absolutely. Well, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of the Green Bay Blizzard Coaches Show. Blizzard are on the road this week at the Quad City Steam Wheelers. For Coach Roberson, I'm Joey Bonadonna. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, go Blizz.